Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 157. I'm here with Annie Ray, 2024 Grammy Educator of the Year. Annie is orchestra director at Annadale High School in Fairfax County, Virginia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you making the time for us.
Yeah, of course. Always happy to connect with everyone.
So it's kind of been a whirlwind, I assume.
Yes, understatement of the century. Everyone keeps asking how it's been. I'm like, I don't have another answer besides that.
Yeah.
It's been a beautiful whirlwind.
So just tell us a little bit about your teaching position.
Yeah, so I'm the orchestra director at Annadale High School in Virginia, Northern Virginia. Here, I am very lucky that I get to direct 5 amazing ensembles, 4 with my general education students and my crescendo orchestra program, which is an orchestra for students with significant and severe disabilities. I'm very honored. Also, I get to be the performing arts department chair here and support my colleagues. And then I also am the founder and director of the Fairfax County Public Schools Parent Orchestra, which is an orchestra where we educate over 200 caregivers every year how to play their student's instrument.
Wow. And you're a mom. So
And I'm a mom of 2. Yep.
do you sleep?
Um, yes, but no. It's kind of one of those like beautiful balance things, right?
Sure.
And just kind of like my energy in the classroom kind of fuels things at home and back and forth.
Yeah. How long have you been at your school?
This is year 4 for me. And I was out at the very beginning of this year, so I'm very lucky that a good friend of mine, Austin Johnson, is been the interim director for Parent Orchestra this year, supporting some of my extra projects and stuff. I'm very lucky. I have a true village here that have been supporting all the efforts.
So who nominated you for Grammy? Was it a committee of people or one person?
So this is actually my second time through the process. The first time I was nominated, I think I made I believe I was like the top 25. I can't remember what their term is for that one, but that was a nomination by Dr. Mike Ward, who was our former department chair here and our guitar teacher. And then this last year, or I guess, wow, yeah, over a year ago, I was nominated again by Dr. Angela Ammerman at George Mason University. She reached out and said that she really wanted to nominate me. And I got the email in my inbox, and the process kind of started through there. And never would have thought in a million years this is where I would be, but here we are.
Well, it's great. And I'm sure it's well deserved. Everything I've read, extremely well deserved. Yeah, I've read something about there's like even the quarterfinals, there's like 212. So like how do you like competing against all these teachers? And obviously as a teacher, your goal is like, I'm here for the kids, right? So you don't even think about like winning something. So that's probably kind of an odd thing.
Yeah, it was definitely odd. And at the time too, it was like I was pregnant with my second baby when I was going through the process this time, and I was just so sick. I had this like recurring sinus infection that we just like couldn't get rid of. And so this nomination came in, and I was looking at the application, and I was like, I just don't know if I have it in me to do everything it's asking for. And so I pulled just a couple students aside, and I said, hey, there's like, keep this on the down low, but there's like just like there's this thing that's happening. I didn't tell them like what it was for. I just told them it was for an award. And I said, if you would like to help me, like by making a couple of videos or helping me put these materials together, like go for it. So they put together like all of these videos, and a sister of one of my students, Eileen Boghosian, actually made the final product. She's a film student, put things together and helped support that whole thing. But I literally was just like, let the students do it. And so when I say this award is the students, I truly mean that, just because it's their program and it truly belongs to them. But they also like did a lot of the process too for me. Because it's a funny thing, right? To, as an educator, to talk about yourself, and you go through it, and I'm like, I don't know if I think I like deserve all of this and stuff. So like, I don't want to like talk about myself. Like, if you guys tell your perspective, tell them about me, like, who am I to you? So that video actually means the world to me when I watch it, to see through their eyes my teaching. It just means everything.
That's awesome. So what is the nomination process like? Like what hoops do you have to go through?
There's a lot. So someone has to nominate you, and I'm not really sure how they go through that process, but then they contact a lot of us, and there's a huge form you have to fill out about like the demographics of your school and supplying information about your teaching. And it's kind of like your resume basically that you put through your teaching philosophy, your approach to things. And then there's a series of videos you have to make and observations. And then from there, like I'm not entirely sure because apparently there's like multi rounds of like panels, whether it's other fellow music educators, music industry professionals. There's just like tons of panels that meet and discuss and watch these videos. And the videos that you submit are like a private link. So I've never shared those videos. But there's like a lot of views on it. So apparently like this has been watched by a lot of people. So it's the way that one person put it on the who I met, they're like, you are probably the most heavily vetted teacher in America right now by the number of people that have watched your stuff or have done research on the behind the scenes.
I always found it a little odd when somebody asked you like what is your philosophy of music, or those you have to like let me take my teaching and put it down on paper. Like for some people, and maybe you're fantastic at that, my wife would be really good at that, but like for me it's like I don't know. You're so accustomed to being on the podium or being in front of classes and teaching and doing everything, then to put it into framework is different.
Yeah, I'm very like I like writing a lot. I like writing and being able to like it was kind of a therapeutic process actually to sit and be like, well, who am I? Who am I as an educator? And like what do I believe? And so like to sit down and like really write it out was just like I've always known like my approach to teaching and like the way that I see like the lens of students, but to actually like, articulate it down and be like, yeah, that's who I am. It's very introspective and like strange for a moment to write all that down, but it's part of the process.
Speaking of Grammys, the closest I've ever come to it was I was in a room last week with Wynton Marsalis, and I heard this story about how he won a Grammy, two Grammys in the same year, one for classical album, one for a jazz album, and that's like completely unheard of. Well, apparently, I just looked it up. He won Grammys consecutive years from 1983 to 1987. Anyway, the reason I bring it up is because he told my students just last week. He said, um, when I won my Grammys and I was there, I didn't even know what the Grammys were because he had like we didn't watch TV, we didn't have to do the like he didn't even know. So a little bit of a different world. Like obviously we all know what the Grammys are now. So
Yeah, it's funny though, like when I was first nominated by Dr. Ward, I was not aware like it was an award like for educators. I wasn't aware of it being a thing. And then it until Dr. Ammerman brought it back around. It's not something I ever thought that like I would be a part of or like I would
right.
be chosen for. Because we just kind of come in every day and just like do what we do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we do it for the kids, right? So it like I said, it's been like a weird juxtaposition of like things going on. And when I came back from the Grammys, everyone was like, have you been able to take a moment for a breather? And I was like, well, no, I chose actually just to hop back on the podium right away because that's like my comfort zone. It was like normalcy and like therapy for me of like, okay, back to like a grounding of like why we do what we do.
Yeah, 100%. I actually have a good friend from college who won the Grammy in 2016. His name is Jared Cassidy. He was at Wyndham High School in New Hampshire. Now he is at Lexington High School. If people don't know him, they should check him out. He's also super inspirational. Um, okay, so a question here is kind of a broad question, and maybe I could ask this way. Coming from your students or the people in your community, what do you feel like you do best as a teacher, or what are some things you do really well?
Um, a couple things. I think I'm very good at relationship building. And kind of focusing music education into like what it's all about. So taking the kids from being stressed about getting onto the stage into connecting over the act of making music, which music king is a term. It's not my term, but it's a term I use with them a lot, being like you contribute to our ensemble no matter where you are in your learning way. You matter. You are important. You need to lead from wherever you are sitting. You need to be confident in that. So I think I'm really good at relationship building and building confidence and pride in a program. Um, with that, I think I'm very good about educating the community about why the arts matter. So that's the importance of parent orchestra, which is not my idea either. This is Brian Coatney's idea. He's in Texas and my mentor. And he has a program, and the reason that mine has gotten some attention is the fact that it's 200 caregivers who sign up, and we have a wait list in addition to that of educating the community. Like why music ed matters. It's so much more than the notes and rhythms on the page. It's just so beyond that, and like why our classes deserve equal value and attention when students are signing up for courses. So I think I'm really good with that. And all that comes together for like recruitment and retention.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
So because all the everybody who's listening has to deal with those things too. Like, why do what we do matter? So what are some of the big things that you say to advocate for, why is this important?
Well, the reason, like with parent orchestra, sometimes it's really hard to like put into words until you've sat in ensemble and you've experienced that processing. But for parents, besides me like throwing the usual like spiel at them of like, it looks good for college applications, here's like all the facts and figures and everything, besides those like buzzwords, for them I really talk to them about the vulnerability of process, right? On our instruments, you have to like learn how to sit with not being very good at something for quite some time, and like the determination to get over that. And it's a very loud and public not being great at something like right away. And there's very few places else in the school where that is so accepted and encouraged, and giving students bravery to just make that big honking big sound, and we're all going to laugh together, and it's okay to feel that joy in that process. It comes from, just like I said, that process of trying something new, that resiliency. And so I advocate through authentic experiences, and then letting that word of mouth really, really go out there into the community. So I try to really like hit everyone, like from the multitude of spaces, whether it's like a big pyramid event, whether it's parent orchestra, whether it's like getting the kids to play in the hallway, whether it's all these different things. I try to come at it at like multiple angles.
I forget who the speaker was, but they were like really famous. Like if I said the name, everybody would know it. I just forget who it was. And they were saying one of the biggest mistakes that teachers make is they say, do music because it makes you good at math, or do music because it makes you better at reading. Like you can do math to get better at math too. So I think making a case for music on its own, not because it makes you smarter with other things, is important too. Can you shout out who are the other teachers you work with in your school system?
Oh my gosh. Here's the thing, is it's so many. Like I've collaborated with so many beautiful people, and like parent orchestra is great for that reason too, because we get this experiential professional development where we're watching each other teach at night, and we're like, oh, that's such a great idea. I'm going to use that now in my classroom. Thank you for that. That's amazing. So oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. Like we have Alexandra Blaine, who I've worked really closely with, Austin Johnson, I mentioned before, Dr. Michelle Keenan. There's so many. But I also need a shout out for my crescendo orchestra, just the instructional assistants and the special education teachers who have so patiently taught me how to work with their students in beautiful and authentic ways. Like they are such the backbones of our schools and so underappreciated. They're just incredible. So I'm so lucky with them. But I mentioned one of my mentors, Brian Coatney, before, but I also want to mention Dennis Langevin, who's at Hendrick Middle School. He's the whole reason I'm an orchestra director and who my program is modeled after. And if anyone wants to see authentic relationship building, they need to spend 5 minutes in his classroom and watch just magic happen. It's just unbelievable, the work that he does.
Fantastic. It's so hard. I think it's really important that we acknowledge our mentors and acknowledge people who support you along the way. Because I think, we all come out of college, or at least some of us come out of college thinking we know all things music and we will be able to fix the world. And the more you do it, the more you realize it takes a lot of people.
Oh yeah, it's a community process, and that's kind of been the hardest thing actually with like winning the award. And I've talked over this with my friends, some close friends a lot, where it's like it truly doesn't, like, this award is kind of guilty for me to like to feel like I'm accepting, and that's the wrong word for it, but like there's so many incredible educators every day who are doing this work and are not recognized, where I'm like, I am nothing compared to like what Dennis Landry is doing on the podium. Like this, these incredible teachers. And I hate for the way this sounds, but like if you've listened to my TED talk, like I say that where the best educators are in our music classroom. The best educators out there are doing this work every day, teaching much more than the notes and rhythms on the page. And I just hope that the education world in general is hearing this and stopping and being like, what do they have to teach? Because we truly have been authentically meeting every student where they're at, every single one of us, because it's just a part of our curriculum. It's a part of what we do. And I hope the education world slows down and hears what we're trying to say, and learns from us.
So much of what we do that we think of as just very basic is like mind blowing for them. I was asked in a PD day recently, well, how do you know when your students understand something? How do you actually know? And I said, I listen to it and I can tell right away if they're understanding something. Not that that's the end all and be all, but like we have this instant feedback all the time, right? And there's so many things like that that we have that we just do, and everybody else goes, "Oh, that's a really big deal."
Yeah, no, it's true. But going with that, like I think it's been an interesting like journey for me with taking kind of what we have learned as or as musicians, as professional musicians or performing musicians, and taking it into the education world of like, okay, we're not trying to create the next Yo-Yo Ma. We're trying to create really good people. Like we're really trying to create authentic good people who love music and can appreciate it. And like, because not all 130 of my students are going to go off and be performers. Like they're not. And that's okay. And so to teach a student like why music still matters, even if they are not going to go off and be the next Hillary Hahn or somebody, like it's just like has been this like process for me as a teacher to come with, especially in a place like Annandale. I've said this before, but Annandale has over 66 countries represented here. There's, I think, 59 different languages, and over 80% of our students are on free or reduced lunch, which means they fall below the poverty line. And to reframe my mind and to work with the students of just allowing them to teach me and then pausing and going back and hearing what they have to say and working with them has been a journey. So like we have playing test, right? And it's so easy to put like a score on like a piece of paper, but like changing the way that I'm approaching grading to be like, okay, X and Y Z student has not been able to have a straight wrist. They always have a pizza wrist. How are we going to grade that success when they finally have a straight wrist? They finally fixed it, but now they're like notes are really out of tune because they've been playing wrong for so long. I'm not going to give them a bad, like horrible score because they fixed this huge problem that we've been working on for so long. So I've been really taking a look at like what equitable grading is, or and how that's reflected in the grade book, and motivating and giving them authentic experiences.
Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about attending the Grammys. What was that entire thing like? Like skipping school and going and being at the Grammys?
Um, well, my principal kept teasing me because I was so stressed about missing school. Um, because I was like, oh my gosh, we have all these like things coming up. And he was like, Annie, you're going to the Grammys. Like, just be quiet for a minute. Just go. And I'm so grateful to my husband who was there with me every step of the way and just reminded me to like take a moment and just enjoy it and just be in the moment and enjoy it. But it's very hard to like fully process that many things happening all at the same time because there was so many events and meeting all these people, um, which was wild. But realizing I was like, oh, you're just a person like me. You're just a person.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't even know how to say it. Like as a teacher, we're thinking always about other people. Like how many times have you skipped bathroom? You're like, oh, I didn't eat lunch today, and like all these things, and then you have to go do this thing where it's like all about you, right? So I totally get what you're saying. It's like, no, but I'm missing fourth period, and that's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also realized in that moment where I was like, you know what? It doesn't have to be about me. So like it doesn't have to be like every chance I had a chance to tell the Annandale story of like how cool these kids are, how cool this community is that I'm lucky enough to be a part of. Like that's the way like I really ended up approaching things of like, hey, like let me tell you about how cool music education is and like why it's important. So I kind of was able to turn it in my head to being like something that was a little bit more palatable for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned your husband, and I've had a lot of people asking recently about providing a little more content for people who are parents, who are trying to be really good parents, but also trying to be really good teachers and all that. So like how do you navigate that whole thing and any advice that you might have for people?
I'm so glad that you actually brought that up because two close friends of mine, we all had babies all at the same time. Like, and so and they're both music educators as well. So we're very hopeful that a couple of our proposals are picked up for us to talk about motherhood and music education. Because there's a lot of moms or dads who have to take a step back when their kids are born because it's hard. Like it is very, very, very difficult. Um, and the only way that I am able to do as many awesome and wonderful, amazing opportunities that I am lucky enough to be presented with is because um, my husband and I, we really operate as like a unit together. I am incredibly lucky to have not just a spouse, but a true partner who supports me, who is so communicative with me, and who celebrates those things where he's like, go, you can do this. We're going to figure it out. It's going to be great. And he's like my positive motivator. um, but the other part of it, the reason that he is able to be so present, he's a musician too. He is a professional performer. He's in the United States Army Band Pershing Zone. He's a euphonium player. And he understands, he gets it. He has a music ed degree. And some of the most influential people in his life who changed his life were music educators. Um, and he did not have the easiest upbringing. And so he understands like why it matters like to these kids because a band director and a musician made him who he is today. And so he truly gets it.
You know, I've said this a couple times on different episodes, but I've had friends when I was younger. My wife and I have two kids who are now 9 and almost 13, almost 10 and 13. And but I remember them being really young and thinking, man, this is really hard. You know, you've got young kids, but then when you go to school, there's, you know, it's like you're always on every single minute of the day at school, and you're always on every single minute of the day when you're at home. I mean, I remember dropping off my kids at the daycare, like around the street, down the street from the school at 7:15 was when I could drop off. And I'm walking in school at 7:20 and there's already 41 band kids sitting outside the hallway, like waiting to get in. I couldn't even get, I'm like, can you move, please? So I can like literally open the door for you, you know, and you put it down and it's like, you just go, go, go. And what got me through that, and well, I had a friend who said, don't worry, it's going to get harder as they get older. And I was like, you are killing me. I don't know what, I don't know how it can get harder. So again, my kids are a little bit older. I will say it's gotten tremendously easier. Is that, you know, the ability for them to just go play, you know, and have a little bit of time. So for any young parents out there, for us, we found that it's, you know, the problems get different, but it's definitely a little bit easier on the day to day. And for me, the planning has been a really big deal. The fact that, you know, like I'm going to plan that if I'm out all next week because my kids are sick, we're still going to function. So if I just plan ahead of time, that kind of got me through those years for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's okay also. Like, I think a lot of us are really afraid to communicate when we really need support. And the biggest thing that for me has been two
Guilty,
things.
very
Yeah.
guilty. Yeah.
And I'm really bad about it too. But I have found um, that with planning ahead and putting my own systems in place, like not waiting for everyone, like not waiting for other systems to be put in place for me, but advocating for myself, has been super helpful. So I'm very transparent with my administration team, with everybody, where I'm like, I can't do X, Y, and Z and also be a good mom. Like I need my schedule set up this way. Like I know there's some limitations and stuff, but also like um I'm so lucky that I work with an organization called Music for Life, which is a nonprofit where they give free private lessons to students who are underprivileged or at risk. And so our school program has three private lesson teachers who are amazing, Christian Coe, Mark Evans Jr. and Robin Tozzi. And they are part of my system of support where it's like I can't be there right now. Like I can't, I have to be home, but it has to continue. And they are able to step in and support. So originally we weren't like I put those systems into place where I was like, okay, there's not enough music subs. What can I do? So quality instruction continues. So yeah, like and advocating for yourself, like I said, like with my admin, I'll be like, okay, very transparent. Like this is exactly what I need in order to be successful. Where can we meet somewhere in the middle to make that happen? I know not everyone is lucky to have an administration that's like that, but
Well, I think it's really important too that if you're going to err on one side, you always err on the side of your family, right? It has
yeah,
to be the family first. And I mean, how many people are going to say, "Oh, I spend too much time with my kids and not enough time at work"? Like it just doesn't work that way, right? It's always the other way around. So family first, and your kids will be there when you get back at school.
yeah. And if you tell them, like I will straight up tell my high schoolers, I'm like, hey, can't be here this morning. Like toddlers and projectile vomiting everywhere. The kids are like, "Solidary, Miss Ray. Like, good luck. Like, we get it. And we'll hold down the fort for you." So having the student leaders also is like really helpful. They keep things going for me when I'm gone. So I have the flexibility to do that.
Okay, so orchestra literature, composers, music. Who do you like right now? What's going on?
Specific composer I'm really loving right now is Katie O'Hara Labrie. She is also a Fairfax County local and a teacher. Her career has just completely taken off, and her literature is such quality, teachable, educational literature. It's so much more than just like a nice piece. It has meaning. Her music all has meaningful parts for everyone, and all teaches like very specific things. So she has great educational rep that's very motivating for students.
Love it. Um, in a little bit, I'm going to be doing a crossover podcast with a podcast called Band Meets Strings. And I don't know if you've heard of this podcast before, but I'm going to meet with them.
I think that they need to know, like, it's very important, like in the string world, like it's very important that we're able to like understand the instrument and be able to play on it. Like, don't be afraid to like go take lessons, like go take lessons on all these different instruments and especially the bass. Especially the bass. You have to learn how to play bass and like really understand getting around it. But I think well, I don't have like a pedagogical like specific question like that you should ask them, but I think that people need to know if you're a band person going into the string world, go learn how to play the instruments, go take lessons, especially on the bass. There's you can use all the method books in the world, but string pedagogy is really based around like playing. So and playing in front of the students and modeling. So definitely do that.
Love it. Um, so actually, I'm going to go back to something you said real quick about how our students are not going to become yo-yo ma and what's the point of all of it. We subscribe to the John Feyerabend method, conversational solfege, and his biggest thing is creating students who are tuneful, beatful, and artful. So we talk about as kids become parents. Do they have a singing voice where they can like sing their child to sleep? Or when they're on the dance floor with their daughter at their wedding, can they dance in time? Right? Just creating these humans that are musical, not just performers. So I wrote that down and I wanted to make sure I said that.
No, that's great.
Okay, so I'm going to end with just a question about something you can say maybe to uplift other music educators.
For educators, I think it's truly a moment where we all need to pause and be like humbled by our students and like what they are trying to teach us. I'm so lucky with my crescendo orchestra or my orchestra for students with significant severe disabilities to have learned from them and applied that to all of my other students of what it means to truly meet every kid where they're at, but also to be fearless. I think oftentimes we are really in a stranglehold over what perfection is going to be put on stage and we forget that we're trying to really make, like I said before, like good humans. Like we're just trying to make people that appreciate and understand what it means to be vulnerable and go through a process together. So I think we really need to tailor our minds to that and focus on that.
Annie, I appreciate you making the time for us, and thanks so much for being here. How can people reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah, anyone can reach me. I am on social media, but I haven't been posting a lot because a lot of my life is revolved around my two little ones right now.
Yep.
But they can find me on Instagram at like Blonde Harpy. So blonde and then harp and then Y, Harpy. But they can also just reach me via my school email. So they can hit me at amray@fcps.edu. I just want to say if people want to find more resources or start their own orchestra or band program for students with significant severe disabilities, there's a lot of resources out there already. Programs like United Sound or Giving Bach are a great foothold or a great step into the door for starting a program that's not exactly like mine, but very a great start. Or you can look into resources like String Rise has a lot of stuff, and just reach out to your special education team. They have a wealth of knowledge and resources and really do want to start things like this.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.